Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our January meeting. My name is Chris Schmidt, and I'm the Interim Executive Director of Ohio City Incorporated. It's nice to see everybody out here this evening. We weren't sure whether to expect 3 or 300 tonight, so we split it in the middle, so it's nice to see all of you out, and also the thousands joining us online and to watch the video later on. So we appreciate all of you making some time tonight. Before we get started, I want to make a couple of quick introductions. We are lucky at Ohio City Incorporated to have hired 4 new team members in the last 2 months, which is great. So over here on the side, I'll start with Molly Ferris, who is our Director of Commercial Development. Holly Bowen, who is Assistant Director of Strategic Partnerships, and Julia Metler-Grove up here, who's a Development Associate. And so this is officially, I think, the biggest our staff has ever been. So we've got, counting our combined staff that we share with Tremont, we're at 15 people, which is pretty awesome because this was an organization of 5 people about 10 years ago. So we've come a long way in that respect, and it's good to see the growth that comes along with it, and also hopefully the services and the changes in the neighborhood you've come to expect. So we've got a busy agenda tonight. I've got a couple of opening remarks that I'll just fly through some slides. We have folks from NEOC, from the Westside Catholic Center, from the Westside Market, and then for a proposed Chipotle on West 25th Street. So we will do all of those in order. You'll have a chance to ask questions or make comments after each one of those sections, and we will do our best to get you out of here within an hour. So updates for us. I promised I would come back with updates around our strategic planning process that we are doing alongside Tremont Development Corporation. Those of you who have been involved in the conversation remember that CDC money is drying up and CDC supports are changing, and so getting together with a good friend is the reality of where we are as a CDC at this point. And so we are a lot like Tremont. I know if you ask anybody here, we're nothing like Tremont. Yes, anybody in Tremont, they say we're nothing like Ohio City, but the reality is outside of those 18,000 people, most people think that we're a lot alike. So we are working through this strategic planning process with Sang-Fua. You'll see their logo up in the corner. The boards and the staffs are working with Sang-Fua right now to go through a current state analysis and to really focus on what's going to change, what we are hopeful for, and how all of these folks that we can work together in the coming months. Resident leader meetings and resident surveys will happen in March and April. I promised you all would be involved, and you're certainly all going to be involved, so keep an eye out for that. We'll come back to this meeting likely in March with some more concrete updates about where we are in this process and a chance to fill out those surveys. And then I'll be back around. I got to do a tour of the block clubs in November. I'll probably be back around in March and April to all of the block clubs to have this conversation and to make sure we can gather up all the feedback. So I'll be in touch. And then around May is when we'll come out with the recommendations that are going to come through this. Our fiscal year ends on June the 30th, so the hope is that we are going to have a plan stood up. Probably not a plan to completely move forward at that point, but a plan of where we're headed by the end of this fiscal year so we can budget accordingly for next fiscal year. So as always, the intent is 1 + 1 = 3. We're only going to do this if it makes sense. We can pull the ripcord at any time from either side and jump out of this process, but from all the early indications, it's a conversation worth having, and so we're going to keep moving down that road. It's also intended to be additive. No one's on the chopping block. There's no internal redundancies that we're going to hack out. The intent is really to how do we leverage the talent that we have on this end of Abbey Avenue and the other end of Abbey Avenue to create a team that can serve 2 neighborhoods as best as we possibly can. So, okay. City Goods and Ohio City Incorporated. So City Goods, the hangars that are down on 28th Street, right? Inside of those hangars, if you've never been, is a collection of about 25, 26, 27 makers who make some really awesome and unique things. And they sell awesome and unique things out of there. And that is organized by City Goods. One of our friends from City Goods is here tonight, Liz, sitting right in the middle. You may also know her partner, who is, he's in the back in the pink shirt, in the middle with the sunglasses hanging down. His name's Sam. They are in the process of making a pretty big transition. They were set up as a for-profit business when they started with the intent of growing and providing space for all of these small makers. As you can imagine, they've come to the realization that they can really do a community-focused mission as a nonprofit, or they can be focused on being a for-profit business and not support as many small businesses. So the decision was made by their team to make this transition into being a nonprofit. They're going through that now. with some outside legal help who's helping them to make that transition, or actually, I should say, to stand up a new nonprofit to be able to support the work of those businesses. And so I bring this up because Ohio City Incorporated is acting as their fiscal agent, which means that for the next 6 months or so, when they collect donations to help them with their charitable endeavors and where they're headed as a business, those donations are going to come through us at OCI, and then we'll give them back to City Goods. And so any donation you make to them would be tax deductible. You will likely see a note in our newsletter next week. And if you are already on a City Goods mailing list, I bet you're going to see something before that asking you for $50 or $100 or whatever you can afford to help this small business collective stay afloat in the meantime, and then to help them get them forward in the future. So as I mentioned, Liz is here. If you have questions for her, she'll stick around after, and she's a delightful person. And so I encourage you to go over and ask some questions and see what you can learn. All right, our trees and environmental programs interest form. We have a QR code up here in the front, which you can scan for your code if you're interested. And I'm going to pull up my notes and cheat a little bit. But our tree program, we got a $60,000 grant from the Cleveland Tree. I'm going to try this again. We got a $60,000 grant from the Cleveland Tree Coalition to develop a tree program in 2024 and plant around 45 trees around Lakeview to beautify the area and promote clean air. We're developing a tree committee of interested residents to help us with that process. The kickoff is going to be late winter, early spring, so in the next, let's say 4 to 6 weeks. Stay tuned for updates, but if you also want to get involved, we would love to have some folks who really care about trees and tree canopies, because we hope this is the start of something bigger. Whitney Long-Jones is back there at your table. Can you wave your hand? Go talk to her about trees if you're interested in learning more or being on that committee. And we have, I think, this QR code printed out back there that you can scan at your leisure. So, a few public meetings right outside here. Lorraine Avenue from 65th Street down to 20th Street. This is a project you may remember, those of you who have been around, from 10 years ago. It's a project that we thought was funded and good to go, and then priorities changed and realities changed, and 10 years have gone by, and now we're all back at the table saying, hey, let's get this project moving. The city's looking for feedback. Our feedback to them has been the reality of Lorraine Avenue has changed pretty dramatically in the last 10 years. We've got many, many, many more small businesses, many more residences, new construction, all up and down the street, so we have to make sure to come up with a plan that reflects the realities of today and not the realities of 2013. So there is a few different groups are getting together to meet on this, but the one I want to draw your attention to next Thursday here at the school, there will be an open house from 6 to 8. You can imagine boards around the room, point to the spots that you're concerned about, point to the spots that you think there's an opportunity. Everything involved from traffic lanes to public transportation to bike lanes to trees to parking to all of that will be part of the conversation. So if you have some influence or some thoughts on that process, please come and join us for that meeting. Our casino night is coming up on February 10th. This is where we raise money for Near West Recreation. 1,500 kids that play sports across the Near West Side, across 4 neighborhoods. This is a great and fun way to come and have a wonderful dinner from our friends at Ohio City Burrito, and have some beer and have some wine and buy some pretend poker chips and win pretend raffle prizes. No, wait, real raffle prizes, pretend raffle tickets to be able to put them in the baskets, and then some great prices from around the Near West Side. So it really is our main fundraiser for this event. The goal this year is we're going to bring in over $10,000. So hopefully you all can join us. We usually have about 125. We have room for 200, and we're going to sell out this year. So join us if you're interested for a night of fun. Again, you can learn about that on the website. And then the Ohio City Open, our Putt-Putt second annual event that's going to happen here at Urban Community School. On April 13th, we build a 9-hole custom mini golf course with many of the local Near West features, including the West Side Market and things that you can putt through as you're making your score. But the reality is it's a good night to dress up silly and have a lot of fun and raise money for Ohio City Incorporated. So please look to join us for that. And then the Street Festival, coming back in September of this year after a 4-year hiatus. We are very excited. We're also very excited to make it more community-focused than it's ever been before, including community art projects, including community engagement projects with some of our block club friends. We really, really, really want to get people more involved to where it's not just another food fair, but it can be something that we really are proud of. We're actually looking to expand it this year and to include a music component concert on Saturday night, or I'm sorry, on Friday night, and then another music component on Saturday night, and then the street festival as you've come to know it all day on Sunday. So we're hoping to make this a whole weekend of Ohio City homecoming festivities. No specific date yet, because we can only have this when the Browns are out of town, and we won't know when the Browns are out of town until about April. So it will happen one of 3 weekends in September. Stay tuned for which one, because we don't know either. But if you'd like to get involved, Katie Bombach's over here on the side, please reach out to her, and we will get you involved in that committee. We're looking for people with all sorts of talents, from the arts to music to finance to marketing to whatever it is. If you can help with this process, we'd love to have you. All right. Questions tonight. Rules of engagement, as we have our presentations, raise your hands and we'll come to you. We are recording this on this camera up here, but also through the sound to where our people online can hear the questions that are being asked. And also on the recording, we know that the questions were asked. We'll make sure to get a mic to you, so wait for that. Try to keep all the questions and comments concise and appropriate, as you can imagine. Speak twice, only after everyone's spoken once. We're gonna try to keep it as lively and engaged as we can. Respect the values and belief of others, obviously, and then listen with an open mind. My predecessor was fond of saying Ohio City is a neighborhood of 10,000 people and 25,000 opinions. So please make sure to recognize that there's a lot of people that feel a lot of different ways about projects, and so we want to be respectful of that. Also, all of our presenters tonight will be sticking around until the end of the meeting, so if you have specific questions for them, make sure that you come and you find them, and they'll be able to help you out. Okay. With that, my friend Liam from NEOC, come on up, Liam, Director of Street Outreach, and really NEOC has been a core partner of ours for the last several years in Ohio City. And so tonight we wanted to make sure to invite them and have them talk a little bit more about their services and what NEOC does for our community.
Thanks, Liam. Yeah. These arrows, am I clicking? Yep. Cool. All right, hey everyone. Good evening. Thanks for having me here. Thanks for supporting the work of NEOC. Yeah, my name is Liam Haggerty. I use he, him pronouns, and I am the Director of Street Outreach at the Northeast Ohio Coalition for the Homeless. As Chris mentioned, we have a great partnership with OCI. We're kind of in this process of getting a worker back to the neighborhood specifically, but we do work in the neighborhood all the time. I'm going to talk about the work that we do, but kind of as like a way to dive into what our work is just talk a little bit about folks who are experiencing homelessness and kind of what that experience is for you all in the neighborhood, just as a way to preface maybe what our work looks like. So I guess I want to start, and this is a presentation I do in lots of different places, but and this is maybe a little audience participation, and this doesn't need to be your idea. It can be an idea that you've heard or that you're aware of or that neighbors or other folks in the community have talked about. And I will acknowledge, like, sometimes there is discomfort around folks who are unhoused and their needs, their presence, and just want to ask the group, and please, like, it doesn't need to be your idea, it can just be any idea that you've heard, but what are some of the reasons that sort of exist around why there might be discomfort when interacting with someone who's unhoused? Yeah, go ahead. Please, it's like we're just shouting them out, and that's great. Okay, yeah. Discomfort, not sure how to respond, maybe, if that's kind of the prompt, or your comfort level with that. Sure, okay. The comment was if someone's asking for money, that can create an uncomfortable situation. What are some other things that could be why there is discomfort, or why someone's not sure what to do? Yeah.
Not sure what kind of behavior might come after the initial interaction or greeting.
Yeah, right, so you interact with someone, you're not sure what the next part of that interaction is, or how am I going to be able to get out of this interaction if it doesn't go well, so maybe I'll avoid it to begin with. Yeah, and again, that's an honest comment, and I appreciate that. Yeah, other things. You don't need a lot, just a couple more maybe if folks want to share. Yeah.
What they might actually use the money you've given.
Sure. Yeah, okay, so again, this is back to if someone is panhandling, asking for money. And again, someone doesn't need to be homeless to panhandle, but what are they going to do with the money if you give it to them? And so you're comfortable with that. Yeah, and I think like some other ones that are talked about is sometimes people say, like, I don't know about my safety, right? I feel unsafe and I don't want to interact because I'm not sure. Another one that comes up a lot is, well, I don't know what I can do to help. Like, this is a situation that's beyond my area of expertise, and so if I engage, but then I can't really offer anything. How am I being helpful, right? So this is, you know, the presentation says some hot tips about interacting with folks. And again, this is just a preference what our work looks like, but I just wanted to kind of run through a few things, because whenever I talk about people experiencing homelessness, it's about, you know, what is their experience, what do they bring to the experience, and how can that experience go? So acknowledging folks directly. So just people who are unhoused are often ignored in public, and there's many reasons why that happens, but that can make people feel invisible. There was a documentary I watched about homelessness, and people were asked to give one word about what it felt to be homeless. And the word that one man shared was lonely. It's a lonely experience because you're not acknowledged, because you are that person who people walk by for fear of what that next interaction would be. And again, I don't want to invalidate any of those concerns, but saying hello can be humanizing. It can make the interaction go better than it would have gone otherwise. Before I worked at NEOC, I worked at St. Ed's in Lakewood, and we did a Labra ministry. We would go out and visit campsites, and one of the things we always talked to the students about was introduce yourself by your name and ask the person for their name. Asking someone their name can be a humanizing thing to do. I do want to acknowledge that we do need to check our assumptions that, you know, in our analysis, homelessness is a systemic problem. It's not a personal failure. So because someone is experiencing homelessness does not automatically imply that they're dangerous or irresponsible. Again, people can have their concerns and fears for their safety, and I always want everyone to do what they feel safe doing. But there is this added level of this person is not inherently something because they are living in a society where there isn't enough affordable housing, where there isn't enough resources, where there isn't enough services. The thing I want to remind you too is to be your authentic self. Show up as you. Treat someone respectfully like you would treat anyone. I think I'll go back because I just want to say, well, connect them with resources, but be your authentic self in the sense that if you don't know resources, that's okay. Like, I use the parallel sometimes. If someone were to come up to you with a medical emergency and you weren't trained in first aid or weren't trained in medical care, you wouldn't put that on yourself to be able to solve that problem. You would call someone who could. And so in the same way, if someone has an issue that you're not able to connect, maybe there's a resource. And that's what I want to close with, is there are some resources I want to share, and that's what we try to do at NEOC along with another great partners. But the one other thing I would say is that it's important to respect people's autonomy, that, you know, in public spaces, there's lots of reasons why folks are there, lots of reasons why people can't go to shelter, or they're not able to go to shelter during the day, or they're just going for a walk, or they're just spending time in the park. And so the idea that they must need something is also something we need to acknowledge. But I you know, as I kind of, the second half of what I want to talk about here is about services, and really want to ask if you have any questions. But if you can offer food or money or other resources, I think that's great. We did talk about questions about money. I will give money to folks. I think like that's my money to give if that's what I want to do. And you know, then it becomes, well, they are going to do with it what they want to do with it. But people do need money to buy something to eat. People do need money to pay for something. But also, you can make calls to get people connected to resources, and that's where hopefully we at NEOC can be helpful. There's some other numbers on there as well that I will talk about before diving into more of NEOC services. But there is an organization called Belfair. They're located in Shaker Heights, but they work all around the county. But they work with young adults. That's their 24/7 youth hotline. So if there's someone who is a youth under 18 that is in need, that's the number to call to get someone there to immediately connect with that person. If the person is interested in going to shelter, you can connect them to shelter through this coordinated intake number, 216-674-6700. That's a way to get them connected to resources. If they're in the midst of kind of a mental health crisis and you're really concerned about their safety, there is the mobile crisis number. That's through Frontline Service, 216-623-6888. So those are some quick resources. I don't want to speak too much about other organizations, so I want to focus on NEOC, but I will say that we partner with a lot of places, and so calling us can also get folks connected to other resources. But that's our street outreach team. Its phone number, it's 216-432-0540. But I want to talk just a little bit about what street outreach is. So we have a team of 6 folks, full-time workers, many of them with lived experience of homelessness themselves. And what we work to do is to try to build relationships with folks who are living unhoused and unsheltered, meaning they're not necessarily spending the night in a homeless shelter, but they are without a place to stay. So they're sleeping in a doorway, they're sleeping in their car, they're sleeping in an abandoned building, and they're sleeping under a bridge or maybe a tent in the woods. And these are folks who have a lot of challenges and a lot of barriers to accessing housing. The statistics often show that people who are unhoused and unsheltered often have 50% of those folks have a trimorbidity of a chronic medical condition, a severe and persistent mental illness, as well as a physical disability. So they have a lot of challenges to accessing care and services, and so sometimes getting them connected to services takes time. There's folks who have, the system has let down, they feel like there isn't a connection to resources. So what we do is we go and try to build a relationship with them, and that often starts with things like basic needs, like do you need a bottle of water? Do you need some snacks? Do you need a sleeping bag because you're sleeping outside? We practice harm reduction. It's about keeping people safe. Our belief is that if someone is outside, that's the safest place they've found to be. And so we're going to work with them where they are. But along the way, we're going to try to get them connected to housing, to behavioral health care, if they need legal accompaniment. We go out with doctors twice a week. We go out with some mental health professionals a couple times a week. So we are trying to bring the services to these folks to help them get connected, ultimately trying to get them connected to housing. And so, if there is someone in the neighborhood, if there is someone that you're seeing that is unhoused or you think might need some services, like that's what we want a call about so that we can connect with them. I think, and I will stop now so that, one, I don't take too much time, but also so if there are any questions. But I'll just kind of close with this philosophy of ours. So this is from Denise Moore. She passed away a couple of years ago, but had worked at NEAC for a long time. She would go out in the community and pass out food from her van. And she saw outreach as encompassing this idea that people aren't problems to be solved or cases to be managed. They're friends to be loved and journeyed with. And so that's what outreach really is about, is making that connection with someone, building that trust so that they maybe didn't see that there was an option for them, but now they do. And one example, there was a gentleman that we worked with who had been living outside for 30 years. Doesn't always take that long. But he'd been living outside for 30 years. And one of our outreach workers had known him for most of that time in different jobs and different iterations. And then there was one winter where it got really cold, and we were able to get that individual inside for a couple nights in a hotel room. And those couple of nights, coupled with everything else that had happened to him and this long time of building a relationship, he said, maybe there's another option for me. Maybe I don't have to go back to that tent when this is over. But that's through that relationship and through putting in the time. So I'll stop there. Just a little bit about our work. If there are questions, happy to answer them. I'll be around at the end too.
Awesome. Thanks, Liam. Questions for Liam? I forgot at the beginning, NEOC stands for Northeast Ohio Coalition of the Homeless. I didn't mention that, but I figured you all put that together. So questions for Liam?
Do you come to local businesses and do training with staff members on how to handle different situations?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we do offer some workshops throughout the year, just in general, and those are available on our website. But we always would be happy to talk to a business that was concerned, that had folks that were stopping in, that they wanted to get connected to services. We'll usually have one of our outreach workers stop in, meet the staff, and say, like, hey, if this happens again, what's going on? You can call us. If there's a particular person that keeps coming back, to say, hey, they're here again, I think they'd love to talk with you. We always love if a business would be willing to say, hey, you can meet with the person in our business, because obviously they're coming there because they feel welcome and they feel safe, and then that can be a jumping off point to have a conversation. Yeah, we'll be happy to do that. Yeah.
Yeah, there's.
I think we'll go Al and then you. Yeah. You go ahead.
Yeah, there's a guy in the neighborhood almost everybody knows, Matt. I forget his last
No,
name.
Matt.
Hangs out at 44th
Yeah.
and Lorraine. And I actually know him fairly well because he walked by our house a lot. And like you said, I know his name. I talk to him. Sometimes he's great. Sometimes he's not.
Right.
And there was one time he was like really out of control. And I said, I didn't want to call the cops on him because he gets super aggressive. Actually, not with me. My wife's a little afraid of him, I think. Or
Sure.
not necessarily afraid of him, but leery of him, right? And I have two dogs. One likes him, one doesn't. Sure. And anyway, so I give him money sometimes. I'm really good to him, actually.
Yeah.
But when he gets really out of control, I don't want to call the cops. But I'm not qualified to go, Matt, cut this crap out. We'll take you someplace. He told me the other day he's been sleeping on a porch, which I know he does, and they're doing some rehab. He's going to lose that place, that porch he's going to lose. Are you the guy to call? I mean, who do you go to when I go, this is beyond what I can do?
Yeah, so, yes, and, we know this individual really well, and, he has been in the neighborhood for a while, and he has a lot of challenges, but, our team knows him really well, and we'll often check in on him every day. We're going to try to get him connected to resources and housing. We are certainly the people to call, I think, and we will continue to engage with them. We have engaged with other organizations too. Frontline's PATH team, which does mental health work, has worked with him. We collaborate with them a lot, and so they're another organization. I do know that like the 2nd District's crisis response team has worked with them. And we have had talks with the 2nd District about this particular individual because they aren't able to arrest their way out of him getting to services. Like, that's not what's going to happen. It's about trying to continue to connect so that there is that moment where he says, okay, I am interested. And we've had some like breakthroughs that have then come back, and like that is, in some ways, that's a very human experience, is that, you take a couple steps forward, you take a couple steps back. And so it's, our commitment is to always keep showing up. That's the one thing I will say about our work, is that you call us, we will come back, we'll build that relationship. So that is a difficult situation, but we are the ones we hope that you call. In addition to PATH and Mobile Crisis, like, we're all kind of working together on that. But I appreciate you saying hi to him and trying to engage, right? He's a part of the neighborhood too, so I appreciate that. Yeah, Al.
Thanks, Liam. Could you talk a little bit about the More Love Project? Because I think it's a fantastic program that would be great for others to know.
Yeah, thanks, Al. So, named after Denise Moore, we have a way that folks could volunteer at NEOC. We go out every other Friday night from, I think we end up leaving St. Paul's Church around 5. You can go to our website to get more of the information, but it's a way for you, if you'd be interested in going out and doing some volunteer outreach, some direct work. We have other opportunities for people to do donation drives. We're always looking for resources, but if you'd like to get involved, it's a great way to meet folks that are experiencing homelessness, see their perspective, and also get a chance to start building some of those relationships. But it's called the More Love Project, named after Denise Moore, and more information's on our website. So thanks. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry, there is a mic, so Chris is running the mic.
Thanks for all the resources and ways you identified to get connected. I saw in there something about civil rights and human rights issues. Could you identify some of the current ones that are, on your mind?
Sure, thanks, Tony. I think, part of that is that we at NEOC will always defend folks' rights to exist in a public space, right? And so that is sort of the reality, is that, we live in a community where there are a variety of different types of folks, and everyone has rights, and we're always going to make sure that we uphold the rights of people, all folks. And so one of the big ones is just giving people the right to exist in a public space. Maybe that's where I want it. A lot of our advocacy work is much more on the side of renters' rights and helping folks stay out of homelessness. A lot of our advocacy work is around root causes, and I think rent is expensive. Being a renter is difficult. You don't have a lot of the same protections you do as a homeowner. There's a lot of barriers that exist. So that's where a lot of our work is. Be happy to talk more about that. I want to keep to time, but that's kind of where a lot of our work is kind of defending renters' rights and tenants' rights.
I was attending a computer training class right next to your offices not too long ago.
Our office?
Yes,
oh, yeah. Okay,
right
cool.
next door to your offices down on Payne not too long ago. So I would see you guys gathering clothes, gathering covers, gathering just things that your clients or the people that you know out here on our Cleveland City streets needing. So I wanted to know, is there ever a time that you don't need covers, blankets, shoes, just things that you know would keep people warm and comfortable? Are you always accepting these items? I go to St. Paul, so I know that we take these things for you, but these are things that everybody could give to you guys. So I'm thinking, are you still in need? Are you always in need? Are these things that we could donate to you at all times? Are these things that you want? And things that we in here could give to you? Are these things that you, I don't want to use the word solicit, but things that you need right now?
Yeah, I appreciate that, and thank you for bringing that up. Yeah, I mean, the reality is there is unsheltered homelessness all the time. I mean, the winter time, like days like this and weeks like this, it's so much harder. It's great that there are some seasonal shelter partners that we work with, including the Metanoia Project and Radical Hospitality and Dennis United Church of Christ, where there are some places that open up just in the winter for people to get in, but there are still people sleeping outside tonight. And so, you know, hats, gloves, sleeping bags, and even if they're not sleeping outside, even if they're in shelter, they're going to spend all day outside because that's the reality of homelessness, because you don't have a place always to get warm. So we do always need those things. They're really helpful. They're a way to keep people safe. Again, kind of going back to the work. We work with people where they're at, and while they're there, we want them to stay safe while they're on the pathway to housing. But I thank you for highlighting that, because I appreciate that.
Liam, thank you. And we will always accept donations, anything you have for NEOC at our office as well. So down here on Lorraine or at St. Paul's, or there's a couple of other places around the neighborhood that you could certainly do it. So I'll do one more question and then we'll...
And as you're going to that question, one of the other things we do at NEOC, we host a street outreach collaborative, which is probably like 60, 70, 80 different organizations, volunteer groups that get together. And so, you know, if those donations come to us and we don't need them, we will get them to other places. So they're not going to sit around for very long, because there's plenty of places we get them out to also.
You showed us on a slide a mobile crisis number. Is that frontline? And what are the hours on that? Because sometimes when I'm out at night walking, I occasionally run into someone that needs some help, and I don't want to call the cops.
Yeah, so full disclosure, like that number will often end up in some type of police involvement because it is connected, but that's a number to call at any time versus like our office is like 9 to 5, but you can call that number at other times. It will sometimes involve like the CRT unit from like 2nd District, for example. Yes, yeah. And again, it's not necessarily going to be like that sometimes, but there will be a response that's much quicker than ours. And so I do want to be honest, like we do outreach work. Our workers are trained in crisis response, but we are not a crisis team. So what we're really trying to do is build relationships over time with people and continue to outreach them versus this person's in an acute mental health crisis. They need something immediately. Our workers are trained to that because sometimes they'll interact with someone and something will happen and they'll get them where they need to go. But they are kind of two different services.
Awesome. Thanks, Liam.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you. If anybody has a mic stand to donate, ours is broken apparently, so I apologize. All right, moving right along, we have our next friend here from Westside Catholic Center, Michael Bruneau, Executive Director, who was going to talk more about what they do, including the wonderful pizza that was in the back tonight to help the neighborhood. Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, Chris. Good evening, everybody. My name is Michael Bruneau, not French. That always goes over well. I'm the Executive Director of the Westside Catholic Center. Very grateful to Liam and the NEOC team. The work that they do is essential to our community. What we do at the Westside Catholic Center is we're a little bit more of a hub. I'm just going to kind of let this play through because we're doing the abbreviated version. But a lot of the folks that Liam encounters, they direct to us during daytime hours. So during the winter months through December through March, we operate as a daytime shelter, and then the remainder of the year, a daytime shelter from 8 to 4. The remainder of the year, we're 9 to 3. So if you're encountering folks that need to get out of the cold during the day, send them over to the intersection of 32nd and Lorraine. The side doors are open. We are always accepting people at that time. We do breakfast and lunch Monday through Friday, and on Saturdays we open for a hot breakfast and a hot dinner at 8:30 a.m. and 4:30 p.m. So those are some of the basic needs services we offer. In that community space, which we call our resource center, we offer over 30 other services. We do showers, we offer mailing programs, we even do expressive arts. We try and address people holistically in that regard. So once folks get to us, to Liam's point of building relationships, we're trying to continue building relationships and connect them with services once we know that they're out of the elements, warm, hope they keep coming back to us. We also do 3 food pantry distributions a month through that. We also own all the buildings between 32nd and 33rd. So we do have a family shelter on site, which is part of the continuum of care. you go through coordinated intake at frontline services. Families that go through our shelter and a couple others from the community enter a rapid rehousing program to get put in scattered site housing across Cuyahoga County. And then we have a family engagement team that works with families both in the community and through our programs to help with parent-child bonding, reduce instances of child abuse and neglect, et cetera, and connect them with resources that are specific to families. And then finally, we have Workforce Development and Culinary Institute. So for those looking for kind of a second chance employment, have been chronically underemployed, never employed, we're a soft entry, do a 4-week program to do job training skills and job searching. And for those who are inclined, they can enter a further 12-week culinary track to do more hard skill development, which culminates in Ohio City Pizzeria, which you guys are enjoying tonight. It's a social enterprise existing business since 1982 in the neighborhood. We bought it in 2018, reopened it in 2019. We use it as a pipeline to get people back to work. They graduate our culinary academy, also accept members of the community as employees as well. So that's kind of my nickel tour here for this part in time. Liam did such a great job that, it's a hard act to follow. But I'm happy to answer any questions as well that you folks may have. But like I said, those are our hours. If you're encountering people on the street, we're a stop for them and a destination for you to point them to for help resources. We have social workers. We have client services coordinators who work with NEOC directly as well. And, it's a group effort. It's a community effort. And I'm very grateful to the work that you guys do, for sure, as well as many of the other providers in the area.
And plus, has the advantage you can say, don't think of it as ordering takeout, think of it as giving to charity. So it's the advantage to always have pizza at your house. So, Michael, thank you. Questions for Michael about the Westside Catholic Center?
Yeah, and this question might be for Ohio City Incorporated as well. There's an empty lot immediately to the west of the Ohio City Pizzeria.
Yes, there is.
That is under/not utilized. And I wonder if Westside Catholic has been in touch with the owners about how that lot could better complement the ministries that you all are already providing for folks at the Westside Catholic
You
Center.
hit the pinch point, sir. Yeah, we absolutely have tried to acquire that lot. It's owned by Planet Fitness currently. It gets usage at 5 o'clock at night, especially in January when everybody has a New Year's resolution. But we've been actively trying to acquire that as well for our usage. So if anybody does know the owner and they're willing to sell, send them my way.
Other questions for Michael? While you're thinking, I should have given the preamble before Liam and before Michael, is that we're so lucky here in the neighborhood to have so many nonprofits, somewhere between 80 and 100, depending on who you ask, nonprofits that are here in this neighborhood. A lot of them are frontline service to help people that are in tough spots in their life. And Westside Catholic Center is a great example of that, and NEOC is a great example of that, but these are two of many. And the thing that I like the most is that they all work together, and that the vast majority of them work with us to be able to help folks. And so it's really great. This is something that is so unique and different about this neighborhood compared to a lot of places in America, is that we're inviting people to a public meeting to say, how can we help, as opposed to how can we get rid of. And I think that's a very important attribute of this neighborhood that we want to preserve. So, anything else for Michael? Go ahead.
I'm just popping up our website and other ways to connect with us too. So if there's any lingering questions, there's a contact form on there. There's our phone number. We do clothing distributions as well and stuff. So if you're looking to connect somebody, jump on our website. Our contact information's right there. You guys know where we're located.
Thank you, Michael. All right. Now we are going to change gears here. Many of you have seen in the paper that the Westside Market is splitting off into its own independent nonprofit, like many, many, many markets around the country. I won't steal her thunder, but this person is what in the business we call the boomerang, because she used to work for Ohio City Incorporated, and now she's back in this new and exciting role, working with the Westside Market. So without taking any more of your speech, I'm very excited to have her back. Rosemary, come on up.
Thanks, Chris. It's good to be back here in Ohio City. It's an exciting time at the Westside Market. I think many of you have been following along over the last 2 years. One of Mayor Bibb's kind of key strategies was to look at the Westside Market and think about how to ensure this gem's future. So, we have Jessica Trevisano here from the mayor's office, who's been leading that effort for the past 2 years. And we had an important step forward this fall, where the city is moving forward with putting the nonprofit into a management role of the market. Now, the market is still being managed by the city right now, but Jessica and I, along with the nonprofit board, are gearing up for the transition this spring. So I just wanted to give a little bit more of an intro into the process for those who may have been following along more or less, a little bit more about the vision and what the sort of transition is going to look like. And a little bit about myself. So Chris mentioned I got my start in community development actually here at Ohio City, Inc. I've been in community development for about 10 years, have done a little tour of the West Side, was most recently in the West Park neighborhood, and now I'm back here. I live in the city of Cleveland over in Glenville, and I love the West Side Market. I love the city of Cleveland, and it's been a joyful return for me. The last few weeks have been so much fun, and it's been so great to be back in the neighborhood. So I'm looking forward, as everyone's thawing out, to seeing everybody out all throughout the spring and getting to meet many of you who I don't know and see many of you who I do know again. So why Cleveland Public Market Corporation? I don't want to talk too much about this because I think many of you are familiar, but transitioning public markets to nonprofit operations and nonprofit management is the national best practice. Many of the public markets that are thriving and doing well, maybe all of them, are now in nonprofit hands. So the part of the reason is because the nonprofit will be able to be both mission focused and operationally in the future self-sustaining. And part of the reason is, the city collects rents, but there's no other revenue streams for it. They can't accept donations in the same way, they can't fundraise in the same way, they don't have access to grants. They're not set up to be able to create event spaces that can create new revenue generating strategies. So the nonprofit will be able to be more nimble, it will be able to be thoughtful, it will be able to engage in different ways that a city really isn't set up to do. The board has been in place for the last 9 months to a year. They're diverse, they're really passionate, they have a ton of expertise, they have deep knowledge of the market, they have deep knowledge of the city, and they have deep knowledge of operating nonprofits and philanthropy. So it's an exciting time. It was kind of a dream to work with a board board that's been assembled. So I think we're all in good hands with them. And so the West Side Market, the final piece, is that it will also allow the market to not only be a place where people shop, but also to sort of be the center of Cleveland's work around food access, wellness, entrepreneurship. We can be a regional leader in that by bringing management under the nonprofit. The mission is to make the West Side Market the nation's premier public market. That's the goal. So anything short of that, and we got to work harder. The vision is, again, supporting merchants, a diverse, thriving, independent businesses, making sure that the beautiful historic building is well preserved, well maintained, allowing the businesses to be able to function smoothly. The market is welcoming, it's vibrant, people from all backgrounds feel comfortable visiting there, and people from all backgrounds find foods that they can connect with and that can be an entry point to other things, right? And that the market can play a central role in our regional food system, right? As we continue to think about being more sustainable, as we continue to think about how we fight climate change, the market has a really special opportunity to connect people with food, to help people better understand where their food comes from and how to be more sustainable in our practices. Finally, I want to talk a little bit about the master plan, just for a second. So part of Jessica's work in the transition was to put together a master plan to ensure that if the city was going to turn over management of the market to a nonprofit, that there was a plan so that it can be successful. And so a few of the highlights of the plan are to prioritize capital improvements, operational changes that allow merchants to thrive, to create an operational model that diversifies revenue streams and creates a more sustainable organization, and to ensure that we're maintaining, all of the magic that happens at the market, that feel when you go inside, that sort of traditional food hub. So, that the goal and the plan was really built around, there's this magical thing happening here in our city. How do we preserve that and support that and build around it and enhance it? And so the plan was designed to create new spaces, improve existing spaces, and also just preserve and enhance what's there and so special. So just a few, you can delve into the full master plan on the website, but just a few of the sort of long-term goals for physical improvements. So the Produce Arcade, I think everyone knows, has had a lot of transition and challenges, especially since the pandemic. So the goal in the long term is to consolidate all the produce vendors to one wing of that, and to renovate it to allow them to have cooler spaces so they can keep their food at great temperatures, to make it easier for them to bring their food up from the basement, and to better utilize the space so they have more areas and better ways to engage with customers. There's also the goal of creating additional space in the other arcade, the North Arcade, where there can be prepared foods and other things that operate outside of traditional market hours. One of the biggest challenges with diversifying vendors right now is many of the merchants that approach us are looking to do prepared foods or need kitchen space, and none of that exists. There's no hoods, there's no nothing like that. So in order to be able to create and welcome more diverse folks, having diverse options of the types of stands we can accommodate is really important. Finally, there's a hidden space on the east mezzanine across from where you sit and eat your Frank's bratwurst. On the other side, in the old men's locker room, there's a beautiful space that has the potential to be an event space. So the goal is to create that as an event space. Again, it's an opportunity to get folks who have never been down to the market into the market. It's an opportunity for revenue generation, and it's an opportunity to really showcase the historic building. And then finally, a teaching kitchen. How do we become part of that regional food economy? Is having a kitchen where people can learn how to prepare the foods that are in the market, and attract folks to learn about sort of food and history. So those are long-term things. I want to emphasize, as we move forward in the transition, these capital changes are sort of I don't want to say phase 2, but there are a lot of capital improvements that we need to focus on right now, like the basement, the roof, and things that can ensure that the existing vendors can operate and that the market is a secure and well-preserved building. So there's sort of 2 parts of the master plan, emphasizing, ensuring that the current operations can go smoothly, right? Repairing elevators. Jessica's team has already been tackling so many of those things. She's just been running at full steam on doing them. And then we're gonna kind of keep pushing forward on those things to ensure that the building is in a strong position to support the merchants that are there. And then as we fundraise and work with partners, it'll be about developing these other spaces to create long-term viability for the market. And then a little bit more about the transition timeline, next steps. So step 1, not really step 1, there was many steps before step 1, but step 1 here, onboarding the executive director. I'm Rosemary, I'm here. I started January 3rd. And then step 2, which is really where Jessica and I are focused, and the CPMC's board, is gearing up the nonprofit to be ready to take over operations sometime this spring. So I'm doing things like hiring. We have 6 positions open. We're negotiating contracts so that we can have cleaning services and all of those kinds of things, so that when the market transitions, we're able to take over, and so that in some ways you don't see a change at the beginning, right? If we're doing our job, if the market keeps going and runs pretty much smoothly like it runs mostly every day right now. So we're kind of deep in the throes of that. And then, this spring, the goal is to transition it to the nonprofit. And so as we do that, I think you'll start to see some things slowly over time, but there will be, major focus on some of the capital improvements, and then also on sort of some operational changes and, leases with vendors and all kinds of things like that. So I don't want to take too much time. I know you guys still have a meaty agenda after me, so it's great to be here. I'm so glad to be back in Ohio City, and we're going to have work hard and have a lot of fun over the next few months. So I welcome questions, or feel free to reach out to me, and I look forward to seeing you again.
Hi, welcome and congratulations. As a longtime customer of the market, the number one concern I hear from vendors recently is the elevators. So could you address sort of where you're at, where you need to be, and the timeline for getting there regarding, the elevators working?
Yeah, sure. If I don't have a deep enough answer, Jessica will jump in. But the elevators are already scheduled pre-transition. I mean, it may happen after the transition, but the funds have been allocated, and the elevators are getting repaired in 2024, or getting replaced in 2024, I should say.
Hi, I was wondering if you saw the news article 2 or 3 weeks ago about the public market in Mexico City and how they're working with local charities to redistribute food that otherwise goes to waste. And I'm thinking that something like that could tie in with sustainability efforts to lessen carbon emissions as well. I volunteer with St. Paul's and St. Herman's and the Catholic Worker, and we go weekly to just the 2 vendors and take their extra stuff that's otherwise going in the trash and try do our best to redistribute it. But I can imagine there's a lot of food waste.
I did not see that particular article, but I'm familiar, and I think many markets work on programs like that, and I think things like that are hopefully part of what will, part of the reason to have the nonprofit begin managing the market, is so that we can build partnerships like that. It may take a little bit of time, but I think, yes, definitely those are things that we're interested in.
It's a strange one, but I'm going to offer it anyway. I moved to the area because of the market in 1978. Over all those years, I've lamented the demise of recipes, specific sausages and things, because families couldn't pass it on. And it would be interesting if you could integrate that with food preparation, where a vendor has trouble, if you will, or they're just going to retire. If you could help step into the breach and see if there's a way you can help them make a transition, so that some of the things that make it a unique place, but then just another commercial place where everything else other places is there too, so you can help them to make that transition.
Yeah, for sure. I think, transition planning for small businesses is really challenging, right? Having a succession plan is one of the hardest things. I hope that that's an area that we're able to support merchants in, is thinking about, when they are ready to move on, what's next? How do we better support them in those transitions, and how do we develop partnerships, even if it's just teaching somebody their recipes, right? Maybe nothing else, but certainly I think succession planning is a really critical piece of sort of preserving that market tradition and market history, right? The reason to go there is because the butcher, they're doing special cuts of meat, they're doing things that aren't happening at your regular grocery store, and ensuring that we find ways to continue those traditions is really important.
Thanks for all of this. I'm inspired by having seen the presentation earlier from Westside Catholic Center about Ohio City Pizzeria. Mm-hmm. Any thoughts about integrating workforce development?
I think, yes, broadly, conversations that, I think that there's opportunities for everything at the Westside Market. And certainly, I think in some ways, workforce development is already happening. If you talk to many of the vendors or some of the small business owners, right, the way that they got on the job training is they got their first job at 14 as just like a teenager. I don't think they had necessarily intentions of becoming a butcher, but they needed an after school job. They got a job there, and they got on the job training. And so I think there's many ways that that's already happening at the market, but there's certainly more formalized ways that it could continue in the future. And I think many partnerships that could be developed with Tri-C or others that could help expand on that.
Thanks for that in general. I guess I'm also conscious of the opportunity to make a committed choice towards workforce development with populations that have traditionally had trouble getting jobs. Might not be connected through families already. You know, we've got a lot of folks coming back into the community from lots of different settings, you know, community reentry, and there are some fantastic groups to partner with that. Anyway, I'm not connected with any of those, but I just would hope that the market could take a leadership position in that kind of work as well. Thanks.
Certainly, I think that's an area of interest, and I think, you know, the teaching kitchen and other things like that do provide a really good launching point for conversations like that.
Thank you, Rosemary. And I will say, as she leaves, we can round of applause, of course. Sorry. And just as Rosemary was the boomerang back to this neighborhood, this is kind of a boomerang story too. Some of you in this room may have remembered and gone to the gala for the West Side Market that we held in 2012 for the 100th anniversary of the West Side Market. And I look back with a lot of pride. This organization had a lot to do with the market transitioning and surviving a couple of years there because of that work. But also, there's been a lot of money sitting in a bank account at the Ohio City offices for the last 12 years because when we raised it, we said, we're only going to turn it over to a nonprofit, so figure it out. And that really, so this organization was a big part of the thorn in the side, and we finally got the right political will downtown to be able to help make that transition. And so we're super excited about where that's headed and working with Rosemary and with our Jessica as our new role and somewhere around the city to be able to help the market go forward from there. So we have one more thing on the agenda. Thank you. One more thing on the agenda this evening. I'm going to invite up Kevin Oliver from Oliver Architecture to talk about a proposed Chipotle on West 25th Street. There's some maps in here, but to level set, it's just to the left of Pins in the old Ram Electronics storefront that's there. But I'll let him talk from there.
Thank you. Kevin Oliver from Oliver Architecture. Thanks for being here tonight and having us. I'm going to walk through the proposed renovations to the existing building, locate you where it is within the community, go over some of the interior layouts, and at the end, as with everybody else, if there's questions, we're happy to answer those. As was mentioned, we're in the Getz building, which has Third Federal Bank to the left when you face it, and Pins Mechanical to the right. And you kind of see we're right on West 25th Street there. The top row photos here are what the site is today from the West 25th side. The bottom row is from the rear. So our renovation and our project will clean, repair, replace the front and rear of the building to bring it back up to standard, make an inviting and modern storefront, as well as the rear of the building as well. The front entrance and the rear access are essentially the same. The main entrance is in the front on the right side here. Services, deliveries come through the rear to the left on this page. And then left side is the current front facade facing West 25th. Again, we're proposing to replace the glazing, the doors, the windows, materials. They need some help, so we're hoping to give them that and bring it back to life. You know, there's amazing features at the top of the building, brickwork, metalwork, stone, and so we're looking forward to bringing all that back and making it a great place on the street there. From the rear, really the left image is its current condition, but it needs the most tuck pointing repair, masonry. There's pieces and parts filled in, so we're going to clean that all up. You know, redo the doors, redo the windows, and make that more presentable as well. Again, material-wise, combination of brick, paint, fiber cement, glass storefront, not changing the rhythm and pattern vertically on the building, keeping that intact, and bringing it up to the standards that we want it to be at. There's approximately 43 seats planned in the space, and these are architectural drawings, so I know it's not everybody's thing, but the first floor is mainly the entrance, kitchen, serving line, pickup space. All the seating is located on the second floor. And to accomplish that, there's a stair in the front of the space, and this is kind of cutting a section through the building. West 25th's on the left, parking lot's back on the right. And so currently the building has 3 stories and a basement, and that third story has a little section up front but doesn't extend the full depth of the building. So this project will open up the second floor to the third floor and make that a double height space. And when you come into the front where that stair is, that's actually effectively a 3-story space at the front of the building. So that will, I think, make a wonderful entry sequence for customers and visitors. It also will help activate the upper levels of the building and not leave them dark, vacant, unused. So it has, numerous benefits there, and we're really excited about doing that as well. This drawing also shows the elevator that's being added, so we're making sure we have accessibility up to the second floor so that all guests can get up and down, in addition to the stairs in the front and the rear of the space as well. These are some of the interior conceptual images that Red Architecture has been kind enough to provide, showing that on the left-hand side is the second floor seating space, and then the right is looking back out through the front glass windows from that second floor seating area. Some views from down on the first floor, looking back to the front entrance on the left side, and on the right, as if you had just come in and the stairs are above you, looping around, and you can see the ordering line in the kitchen exposed there as well. So that's the physical summary. Happy to answer questions. And we have Julie is here from Chipotle, as well as, James. James is here also. So I can answer questions about the physical renovations. If there are operational questions, they've joined us as well.
Yeah, hi, and just to kind of elaborate on that, I'm Julie Kortich. I'm the design manager for Chipotle, Cleveland resident. I live over by Shaker Square. I'm local, and I'm on the development side, the actual construction of the project. James here is team director for this region, and so he's on the operational side. We're both local. We both get it. We both get the neighborhood. I did want to, kind of emphasize the point that we're not trying to come in and make any massive changes to the building, or, we really want to just bring it back up to what it was. We want to really highlight what makes West 25th, makes Ohio City special. And so we really are just pretty much cleaning everything up, replacing everything that needs to be replaced, and just throwing a sign on the front so you can find us, and that's pretty much it. I don't know if you have anything you want to add?
Yeah, so I started with Chipotle in 2008, so I've been there for a very long time in Northeast Ohio. I oversee all 70 restaurants, so probably every single one you go to. I have a field leader that oversees it. The one great thing about Chipotle that I think, from a community standpoint, very much community-based. Out of these 70 restaurants last year, we raised $600,000 in fundraising throughout the Northeast Ohio market. So that's super exciting, especially coming into a community like this, seeing as much as you guys are involved with each other and the local businesses. So we're super excited about the community. I love this building. I love the architecture of the building and the location. They can't build it quick enough, so we're excited to get into it.
Awesome. Now we need a microphone to go with our mic stand, because I just dropped this one and it broke. So if you, who has questions for these folks? Yeah.
Hi. So I think it's fair probably for neighbors to wonder what's the impact on Ohio City Burrito going to be. Have you given thought to that? How does Chipotle think about it? I know it's not necessarily always bad to have similar food adjacent, but what do you think is going to be the impact? What's the owner's reaction, input, if you even approach them?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't approached them, or we haven't approached them in conversations about it, but I love Ohio Burrito, Ohio City Burrito. So I think for us and them, I think it represents a lot of what both companies do. But, there's not a hotheads down the road or anything like that. So I don't really think we compare too closely to them. I don't know what your thoughts are.
I mean, more options are always good, right? If you want to support the extremely local Ohio City Burrito, you're totally welcome to do that. We're going to be right next to Pins. I know that Pins doesn't have food in their establishment, so we're thinking, maybe having the convenience of being next door and being able to run over and grab something there and come back during your, Friday night, Saturday night would be great.
I'll help too. We have reached out to them, and they're obviously aware that this is coming. And Ohio City Burrito has been a long-term partner of OCI, and they've always been very, very good to us. And we have assured them that whatever we need to do to make them feel loved here in the neighborhood, we're going to do that, right? So I think that part of this is voting with your wallet too. If you see it as a conflict, go one place or the other. That's fine. But the reality is our retail study popped up. The number one request for people in the retail study that we did a few years ago was fast, casual, carry-out, family-friendly options. And so according to the people in this room and the people in this room represent, more things like Chipotle is what people are really looking for in the commercial areas.
So I would just tell you that it's exactly identical. What Ohio City Burrito does and what you do. So please don't think otherwise. It's almost exactly alike. And secondly, I feel really, I'm in disagreement with Chris's previous statement because there are many people in this neighborhood who do not want a corporate behemoth coming in on West 25th Street.
My question, I'm curious to know what about this site was appealing to Chipotle. One with it being sort of a renovation and also just being in Ohio City generally.
Honestly, it's a location that we've been trying to find a spot to go in for a really long time. It's definitely been on our real estate planning map for a while. I think that, working with a great landlord who's willing to kind of put in maximum effort to bring the building back up to the standards that we would expect for it is kind of, what made us go here. But we've long-term been looking to go into Ohio City for a while.
I saw that there's a Chipotle about to open in Steel Yard. Are you thinking of doing this? Are you committed to this? Is this something you're looking at?
We're opening in about a month. It's a relocation.
No, this.
Oh, this?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is, I think right now we're on track for like a mid-2025 opening. But yeah, we're absolutely committed. I mean, the landlord's doing demo right now as we speak.
Yeah, because the
get
Chipotle
space
down
ready.
in Steel Yard looked like it's going to open in a week or two. So.
Yeah, we're
All
actually relocating that one to have a pickup window, which most of our locations do have that. Here, obviously, logistical challenges. We can't get a vehicle to to go next to the building. But yeah.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm really happy that you have someone here from operations. So this is somewhat tangential. Can you explain why it doesn't matter what location I go to, they are missing so many ingredients? and I've walked out of so many Chipotles because it didn't make sense to get a bowl full of cheese.
Put me on the spot there. Well, obviously we don't want that. And I think without going too in detail about the whys and the excuses that I could give you about it, the fact is we have gotten much better at our reporting and our hiring process to ensure, and our distribution process to ensure that we're not running out of food. That seems to be the most key, is that, hey, by 7 o'clock, 7:30, 8 o'clock, it's like we're running out of food, and because of our sales being tremendously higher than what we would expect for that day, all those are just excuses. I think the fact is that we got to be better operationally to ensure that we do have all the ingredients for the customers, but that starts with making sure we have the right tools to do so. So we've gotten, from COVID till now, we've gotten so much more accurate in our DML orders, in our in-store accuracy, and focusing on throughput, which is how many transactions we can get through in 15 minutes. In all those categories, the Northeast Ohio is in double digits, so we've seen incremental improvements in that area, but again, clearly, we still have room to improve. So,
Thanks, guys. I'll take one or two more.
Okay, as you know, you said you've done a lot of research in Ohio City and everything, okay? So you know that you're coming into an extremely diverse area, okay? But you know in this diverse area, you have people that are going to demand respect. We've seen on TV how a lot of your employees have treated your customers. Here in Ohio City, we're not going to go for people who are being rude, like some of your stories have represented, with your employees kind of mocking the people that have come in, like the issue that happened in Parma. You know what I'm speaking of? You do know the issue that happened in Parma, or you're not gonna go for half-filled containers of food and things. You will get a lot of calls to your offices and things, so you need to impress upon your employees that this is an area that wants standard supply, because we're going to demand great service, okay? And you are going against one of our premier places that we like, Ohio City Burrito. Now, I don't think it's terrible to have these type of things going against one another or work, because we have on Clark McDonald's right next to Burger King, right next to Rally's and all of that, and they work it out some kind of way. They have those people that like different types of food, you know? But we want courtesy. We want value. We want quality. Okay? And if you're going to give that to us, then I think you will have decent reception here. But you have to know that coming into our neighborhood. Okay? Thank you for listening.
Anyone else? All right, we'll go one more.
This is a question for Oliver. So you said the changes should be pretty minimal, more bringing the building to life. I guess, are those changes going to be kind of undoable if another business wants to come in, or are these changes more so focused toward Chipotle?
So the changes to the building, call it the core and shell of it, really will bring it to a point where, if 10, 15 years Chipotle goes somewhere else, the building that currently doesn't have an elevator, doesn't have enough exit stairs in it to make the upper floors legally inhabitable. All of that is being put into it. So that part of it is definitely usable, and I would say necessary for the future life of this building, because without it, you know, anyone, as it is right now, if someone came to the building and said, I would like to lease the third floor space, well, there's at least 5 hurdles to doing that. There's no elevator, there's not enough stairs, doesn't meet code, all that stuff happens. And so, to your point, you know, if this doesn't work out, what's left is a building that is now usable on that street in that site. So absolutely yes is my answer to that.
Thank you, Kevin. All right, here's what we're going to do. So they're going to stick around over afterwards. Round of applause for our friends from Chipotle. Their new landlord is Doug Brukowski, who's standing right over here. So if you wave, if you have questions for him or questions for any of them, do that. Liam is also still here. Let's see. For the market, Jessica's back there in the back and can answer any questions about that. And if you have anything for Westside Catholic Center, come talk to me, because I think he snuck out, which is fine. Or questions for OCI, we're up in the front. We will see you next month at the community meeting, which is, I don't remember the date, February 20th, back here at Urban Community School. Thank you all for coming tonight. We had our biggest crowd in person and online tonight, so thank you for that, and we'll see you soon.